This is Prime Time, and Adeniyi analyst and professor of communications at Baze University in Abuja, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, joins me now from our Abuja studios. Good evening, Professor. Thank you for being on the show, and thank you for doing this.
Yeah, good evening, Adeswa. My pleasure.
Great. So let me begin by asking you, PDP's refusal to sign this accord, how likely is it to influence voter sentiment and behavior in the final days, 9 days to the election? What's your take? Is it likely to have any impact at all? Or is this much ado about nothing?
No, it's not, Adeswa. But first of all, let me just say that the news coming out of Benin City, that PDP has refused to sign, is very unfortunate and slightly disappointing, no doubt. It just means that the governor, Obaseki, has made good his strength, to discourage his party from signing the accord. We need to realize that, that accord signing process led by eminent personalities, former head of state, General Abisalami Abubakar, respected cleric, Bishop Matthew Hazan Kuka, my Lord Cardinal Donayekon, Chief Ben Obi, and others, has emerged as an effective moral force, helping to stabilize, the Nigerian political and democratic process, no matter how weak we may say it is. Yes, we know political process has largely emerged to be irrational, illogical, somewhat problematic in many regards, but the fact that we have, sets of respectable Nigerians trying to remind us of the ideal, through peace accord, even though it doesn't have any legal backing, is a continuous reminder of the overarching, elevated need, to be peaceful, realizing that the ultimate objective of driving the political process is for the overall good of the people. So symbolically, it's been very, very important. And of course, if my memory serves me right, this looks like the first time a major political party will refuse to sign, and it has many implications, like you have said. So ordinarily, it just appears as if they are saying that we're not signing this thing because we are not signing it. Whatever happens, whatever happens, we may not necessarily be held responsible, or we should not be held accountable, or we do not believe, that peace, or that violence will be eschewed completely. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is to just drum home the point that, yes, we hold this committee as a reputable, respectable committee. At the same time, we expect them, to rein in on some things that we are demanding, and want to make a bold statement, to them, directly or indirectly, so that they can help us meet some of our immediate yearnings, including the release of those that they claim have been arrested. But that may be their reason, but my argument is that it's a reason, that shouldn't be canvassed at this time, considering the tension, that is the tension that usually characterizes the governorship process in those states, where people, all the parties in the contest, particularly the two major political parties, PDP and PDP, just can't imagine that they should lose the election. And of course, this has been the bane of our democracy, and it can rub off negatively on the supporters, like you have said, because supporters may not have the understanding that the leaders are having. Of course, they may not have the tolerance, the maturity, and of course, their own interpretation of the PDP's leadership refusal to sign, may just be out of this world. And of course, it may result in what we are not expecting. So it may not be late in the day if they want to rethink their stance, and of course, we'll probably have to also urge the committee, not to relent, not to give up, to probably continue in their push to get the PDP to sign, because like I said, it's a symbolic process, and it has come to define the pre-election stage of every festival of democracy represented in the election that we've been having in this country, as the case could be this well.
Indeed. In other words, you're saying that the PDP missed an opportunity to pen that accord to underscore its commitment to a peaceful election. But let me ask you, Professor Adeniyi, the PDP is the incumbent party in Edo State. Is this a usual scenario to see the incumbent party cry foul ahead of the election? Because there are those who say not signing this accord is defeatist.
I don't think so. Do not forget that in every political arrangement, in every political arithmetic, there's always a contest to it. And in the case of Edo State, the PDP may be concerned, because they are a party running against the party in power. Their APC is in control of the center, and of course, PDP will be running against, the party that controls the center. So they might be fretting over it, imagining rightly or wrongly that federal might be used, to change the course of the election. And even if APC is not thinking in that direction, do not forget APC is populated by some big wigs in Edo State, and the PDP might consider this menacing. And of course, they may also want to deploy all measures, even if it's to push back as much as possible so that they will not be seen as weak, or probably to put APC on the defensive. When it comes to election period like this, these political parties are always, up in their game, trying to outdo the other, using different kinds of tactics and strategy. So it may just be one of such strategy that they think they can use, to get, if not to get their partisans released, but maybe to call attention or to get APC to defend themselves and call attention to the public, to the rest of us, to be wary of what a party at the center might do. We may not be too sure of what the motives are, but we're just guessing. But overall, I think, like I heard Father Bakindo also said, it's important for us to prioritize the interest of not just the citizens, the good people of Edo State, but the overall interest of Nigerians. And of course, in the lasting interest of our democracy, which we often hope to deepen, and of course, do not forget that we also said severally that these off-season elections are like a learning curve for us to improve on the general elections. And Edo State is a major off-cycle election case that we cannot undermine. We need peace, to characterize the election in the build-up to the Edo election before we start talking about the Anambra election, as the case could be this way.
Great. Professor, let me ask you, because the PDP did give conditions, they have raised concerns and they have alleged intimidation, harassment. In fact, today, the state chairman of the party confronted the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, in Benin City during the signing, even though they didn't sign the accord. They say their party members are being arrested and whisked away to Abuja. They say there was a July 18 incident, a shooting incident, which a police officer was killed, and their party member was also arrested, even though he was not involved in the situation. The IGP did respond to these concerns raised, but I wanted to ask you, are these valid reasons for the PDP to say, we're not going to sign this accord, which everybody sees, or most people see as symbolic to maintain a peaceful election? I can't find any reasonable reason. I don't think their refusal to sign the agreement is actually justifiable. Even no matter how irritated or provoked you are in circumstances, it's often good to remain dignified. To remain respectable, for you to show grace. Be elevated above the moment and show that you can be statesmanly. Anger in ordinary times, we know, can be dysfunctional if it is not properly managed. And we're talking about anger, not at the individual level now, but at the corporate, collective level, at the level of the whole, which can rub off on other citizens. So allowing anger to manifest in the circumstance, it's not something that we ordinarily want, especially if you consider the personalities involved. On the PDP side, we'll have a sitting governor, and of course, we have a candidate that many of us respect ordinarily on account of his pedigree and on account of his potentials, to govern Edo State and probably govern it well. And if you are having them, showing this kind of action,
it actually chips something away from the kind of love you want to continue to extend to them, even though you do not, you may not be able to vote in Edo State. But of course, we are citizens and we are legitimate observers of the process. So I find it very difficult to justify it, and that's why we're urging for a rethink and also asking the Peace Committee not to give up, to keep pushing, probably get them to still resign, and probably also talk to the federal government or the police, to look into their case, so that we can, the anger can thaw, in the build up to the election, because even before now, we have seen some of these peace accords signed, and of course, in the election process, you still see violence, you still see ballot snatching, all kinds of shenanigans happening. What would you imagine in a situation where one of the parties has refused to even sign the peace accord in the first instance? So we just think we can make the best out of the situation and let them know that it's not the way we want to go as a people. And of course, the meaning that it makes is not just for the Edo State alone, but for Nigeria as a whole. And of course, we are thinking about sustaining our democracy beyond this level. And if we have to sustain our democracy, to deepen it, we have to learn how to manage our irritations and our anger, irrespective of the provocation. It's a continuous work, and I'm happy as well that Father Barkindo referenced that popular cliche, that democracy is a journey, it's not a destination. And of course, within this journey, there will be hiccups, there will be bumps, there will be bust-ups, there will be provocations. But we will remain respectable if we are able to manage the irritations as much as possible. After all, they are only disagreeing because of politics, At other sectors of life, they become one. And they need to remember, above all, that humanity, we have a lot in common, as humans, resident in a particular state, within a particular country, and of course, as global citizens, being watched by all as sundry, as the case could be this one.
Thank you very much. Let's start with Father Barkindo, because he did make some valid points, including that the peace accord does not even need to be institutionalized, although it's not in its place to say whether it will be or not. He says we have enough laws to take care of electoral violence, before, during, or after the elections. So that calls to question, what are we doing wrongly? Whether we like it or not, the Peace Committee has only come to stay because there was a vacuum to fill. And he highlighted the job they do in reducing tensions during election period. So Professor Adeniyi, why have we not been able to see people get punished, to put it mildly, for electoral violence? Because like I said to him, if there are no consequences for actions, they're most likely to be repeated.
Yeah, I think first of all, Adesua, you are spot on. People are not being punished, because of what I had him refer to. Our institutions are actually very weak. Oftentimes, after elections, what we see is people going to court, to challenge the outcome of the election, taking INEC to court, and of course, we are entertained by legal fireworks, but we do not see security agencies prosecuting people that committed infraction in the course of the election, and which is why it's often very easy for us to see constant repetition of things, infractions that we imagine will not happen, rear their heads again. Oftentimes when elections are coming, police have said again, 35,000 men will be going to Edo State, plus 8,000 other members of the security agencies. Yes, this is a familiar story, but at the end of the day, you still see violence somehow, why are we saying it? Yes, I agree with you, absence of consequences. The laws are implemented in the breach. We have more than enough law. So if the laws, black letter laws as the case could be, are not respected because they are not implemented, there are no prosecution, there are no apprehensions, and there are no sanctions. So there cannot be deterrence naturally. And that's why that's the vacuum that I think the Peace Committee came to fill. Okay, let's work from the angle of moral suasion. Let's work from the angle of trying to convince people to make them see reasons why there should be peace, why there shouldn't be violence. You know, so if the laws cannot work, why can't we talk to people? And do not forget, these are respected, reputable men who any day in this country, anywhere they go, you actually respect them on account of their accomplishments. So I think that's why they are probably coming in. I do not even think it should be legalized, because I heard you discuss it with Father Barkindo. You know, we know politics may not be rational, largely, may be illogical, but in terms of morality, there should be some element of morality in it, you know, because if it is not moral, if there are no values, if there are no ethics, if there are no virtues, if there are no cardinal objectives, then of course we are done for. And those are the things that I imagine that the committee is constantly reminding us of, that the greater objective of the quest for political power is not for self-aggrandizement, you know, but for the community, the greater good of the nation, the essence, for us to leave legacies. And if you want to serve the people, we don't want to serve the self, then of course you need not be die-hearted, as the case could be. And once more, it is the reason why we're going to appeal to those who have refused to sign to please have a rethink in the interest of not just Edo State, but for the sake of Nigeria and the continuation of discussion, you know, instead of violence, as the case could be.
Thank you very much, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi. A good place to anchor the program tonight. Well, that's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. To join us again tomorrow.